Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and welcome to 333 Magic 9, where the tarot cards and stars come together to help you. 2021 is going to be quite a different year than last year, but there still are some critical days you need to know about because they can affect your love, your money, and your career. So let's take a closer look. The card for the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, is the Three of Wands. And as you look at this card, you can see that he is looking forward into the future. So this is symbolic of movement and progression. So he can sort of see that there are going to be new opportunities coming along for him. There also might be some challenges as well, but from his point of vision, he is looking forward. Now, these are the movements of the planets, except for the moon, because that would go around so fast it'd be too much. The yellow is the sun, and then we have the dark blue is Mercury, then the powder blue is Venus, and then we have Mars in red, we have Jupiter in green, Saturn in orange, Uranus in pink here, and Neptune in green and Pluto in purple. So you can see the outer planets move very, very slowly, and that's one of the things that makes them so powerful. The most important thing to talk about probably, especially in January, is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, what happened in December, the end of December. So they will be moving forward, leaving the sign of Capricorn. So Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto have all been in Capricorn for about, a year for Jupiter, 2.5 years for Saturn, much more for Pluto back to 2008. But that has brought all the heaviness to the world. And that's moving forward. So that's really some good news. Now, since this is happening up in your 10th house, you can look forward to some changes in the career area or your social status, something of that nature. What you need to do is balance these two energies. So Jupiter is expansion, Saturn is contraction. Jupiter is opportunity, Saturn is reality. So you can use your enthusiasm in a realistic sense to bring forth your long-term goals. So that can be very good news. So look forward to opportunity and make sure you use your knowledge in a logical and practical manner. Now, the next thing that's going to happen, and this is on the 13th of January, is there going to be a Mars square to Saturn. So Mars is down here, Saturn's up there. So the square is going to be from your first house of personality to the 10th house of status. Now, Mars and Saturn in square just don't like each other. So Saturn is sort of like delays and frustrations when there's a square from Mars. So make sure you're not being too pushy in what you're trying to achieve, because that could affect your career in a negative sense. Now, you will have the energy to sort of like break through frustrating situations, but do so carefully, not with willfulness. Now, on the 14th, the very next day, Uranus is going to be turning direct. And this should clear out some energy for you and show you that there are new opportunities, there are changes that are coming to you in probably the very near future, because the next aspect, and this is a really big one, is you're going to have Mars conjuncting Uranus, and both Mars and Uranus are squared to Jupiter. This goes on the week of the 17th. Now, you have to be very careful here, because again, dealing with your personality and with the area of status and career. So don't be too pushy, don't gamble foolishly, and don't be too freedom loving unless you are wanting to break free from a situation. Boy, if you are wanting to do that, this is the time to do it. If you are prepared for it, this is the time to do it, because there is no question that the energy is going to be there. So be careful if you don't want to make changes, but change is in the air, no question. So as we move forward, Mercury will turn retrograde. Now, Mercury turns retrograde up here, again in the 10th house. And again, this might have some effect on career and status, but when Mercury turns retrograde, it's usually not that heavy duty, not like Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, and Uranus. They are very heavy. So when Mercury turns retrograde, and he will stay for not quite 3 weeks from the 30th of January, February 21st, I'd always suggest that we need to have caution. We need to check all the details. If we're planning travel, go over the plans twice. If you're trying to institute something new, because this is in the career area, be careful with it. Make sure you're paying attention, cross the T's, dot the I's. Anything dealing with career and social status has to be done carefully. Jumping ahead, we have a Saturn square to Uranus on the 18th of February. Now, this is an aspect that says the past and the future don't like one another. So you need to really be flexible because there might be a need for cooperation, because these planets, again, they don't like each other either. So that's why this is one of the critical types of things that happen in astrology. So you're going to have to, again, be careful in career and the way you project yourself, because Uranus is in the first house of personality. So don't fight things that you can't win. Don't fight wars that you can't win. Now, in March, Venus will move into Aries. So the Venus is the blue line here. And Venus will move into Aries and the 12th house. Now, this can bring some challenges in the area of love. It might suggest that you need some time alone. Venus isn't always that happy in Aries, because Aries is independent and relationships are not. They have to be cooperative. So you're going to have to use a little bit of balance, use a little bit of common sense when it comes to relationships. As we move forward in the year into the second quarter, the card is the Seven of Pentacles. Now, this is a card that represents that you may need to take a pause or to step back and look, a little bit of hesitation before moving forward. And, you have to see here that, okay, you've made all these pentacles, but now exactly what are you going to do with them? So how are you going to use all of this? So you might need to step back and have a good plan for how you're going to invest your time and energy and your talents. So the very first aspect we get that is heavy here is there is going to be a Mars square to Neptune on April 9th. Now, Neptune is up here in the 11th house of groups and associates, and Mars is going to be squaring that. Now, when Mars squares Neptune, I guess the best way to say it is, don't believe everything that you hear. Don't invest in anything that's really speculative, because Neptune represents illusion, Mars represents desire, and they're not in a good situation together. So be a little bit careful in those areas of your life. You don't want to get into any trouble, right? So, and watch out with money. If something sounds too good to be true, an investment, somebody's trying to push something on you, if it's too good to be true, it isn't too good to be true. Next is Mercury and Venus, and they will conjunct Uranus in your first house. Now, that is actually a very good aspect, because you're combining the sensitivity of Venus and the values of Venus with Mercury, the ability to communicate, and Uranus, which is the planet of genius. So this can bring some very good new ideas your way. You see the two blue lines coming right across Uranus here. So listen to creative ideas that pop into your mind. Maybe take a little bit of a chance, or a little bit, go on an adventure that you have never done before. So this can open up your life a little bit, bring a little extra energy to you. In May, Jupiter will enter Pisces for the first time in 12 years. That's a great entry, because Jupiter was the old ruler of Pisces before Neptune had been discovered. So Jupiter likes being in Pisces. This is going to be in your 11th house of groups and associates. So this can enhance that area of your life. You can become a little bit more sensitive, more compassionate. Your spirituality and your healing abilities are increased. So listen to your intuition and follow your creative ideas, especially when it comes to dealing with groups of people. Now, as we move forward, both Mercury, so Mercury is that blue line there, and Saturn, the orange up there, will be going retrograde in the last week of May. So this gives you a chance to review the structures that you are building in your life, especially dealing with, you see, Mercury's just going to be going into that second house, and Saturn is up in the 10th house of career. So money and career are associated with this aspect, with this movement. So make sure you're using logic and you are supportive of other people, and then they can be supportive of you as well. But when there is a retrograde, especially with Mercury, and there's an aspect like Saturn's, that's pretty heavy. So, you're going to have to, review things and make sure everything is the way it should be. Moving forward to June, on June 6th, there is going to be an opposition from Mars down here up to Pluto. Now, Pluto is up in your 9th house of understanding and different ideas, different people, different philosophies. So when Mars is in opposition to Pluto, you're going to have to be careful to know, you have to give other people a little leeway. Don't let them push you. Don't be pushy with them. Don't try to manipulate situations with people. If you don't understand someone, if someone of a different culture, give them a little space, give them a little room, and maybe they'll do the same for you. Because Mars is the planet of war and desire, and Pluto is the planet of the pandemic. so this is heavy-duty energy here, and use it well if you need to do a breakthrough in your life. That might be the time to do it. Now, Mercury may help out a little bit later in the month, because Mercury will be going direct, and that usually will clear up any misunderstandings, or at least give you an idea of what you should be doing. Again, that's in the area of finances and talents. So work on your finances, work on developing your talents, and that can be really helpful. And finally, on the 20th and the 25th of June, both Jupiter and Neptune go retrograde up here in the sign of Pisces. Now, when Jupiter and Neptune are both in Pisces, everybody's very sensitive. And when a retrograde happens, and this is with groups of people in the 11th house associates, that is a time to be really sensitive, be compassionate. Don't expect all your dreams to come true. But it also represents you might have to make revisions in what you expect from groups of people and what you are willing to give to groups of people. So keep yourself clear, and that way you don't get into trouble. As we move into the third quarter of the year, and this will be July, August, and September, the card is the Lovers, and I'll get to some of the meaning of that, but that's going to reflect what's happening with Mars and with Venus. Those are the two planets of love. So there can be a lot of romantic energy around, and also a lot of sensuality, and this could be fun. You may be able to put together, a good relationship or some sort of partnership, that will be really helpful to both parties, not just to one. And again, this can be as business or it can be personal. So when we go into July, there is a very powerful Mars Uranus Square. So you have Mars down here, and Mars is going to be squared to Uranus. So Mars is in the fourth house, and that is the house of your emotional foundation. So your emotions can be running very high, and squaring Uranus, both are in fixed signs. So there can be a lot of stubbornness and a lot of willfulness around. So make sure you do not allow your ego to get out of control. And, if you have to back off from somebody else, that may be the smartest thing to do. Also, Jupiter and Saturn are both going to be going retrograde all month. So you may have to reconsider things that you're doing. Whoop, move that paper, didn't mean to, in your career. So anytime there's a retrograde, it's a good time to look back, reassess, judge what has happened, see where you have to make changes, and it has to be done on a very practical level. For instance, with Jupiter being the planet of expansion, if you've expanded too far and Saturn is restriction, you might have to back up a little bit. You might have to make more sensible plans. So be willing to make adjustments when you can. Now, when we talked about the lovers and we talked about Venus, the blue line, and Mars, and they will be traveling all month in the sign of Leo, and that's really good. And even next month they'll go into Virgo, they'll be together as well. So this can highlight romance, creativity, and since it's going to be down here in the area of home and family, this could be a great time to fix up the home, to change where you're living, to bring someone new into the home. You might move in together, that type of issue, because Venus, love, and Mars is desire, and Leo is a really good place for them to be together. Just don't be too arrogant, and don't let others be arrogant either. So the ego may have to be controlled a tiny little bit. So now we move ahead and we go into August, and Venus and Mars are still moving together, and now they are in the fifth house. Now, Venus and Mars are not really that happy in Virgo, but they are in good aspect to you. So that might make this better. And, just be careful not to be too critical of yourself or others. This might also enhance some creative projects, or if you're working with children, that might be very good energy for that, good for teaching, things of that nature. So it's not the happiest sign for Venus and Mars, but not bad either. So Uranus will go retrograde. So there's Uranus, and Uranus is going to be going retrograde, and this is in your first house. So you're going to have to be willing to make adjustments, especially in the way you project yourself, or the way you're expressing your personality, the way you look. You might have to not be so esoteric. May have to be a little bit more practical. Especially if you've let your hair grow too long, you might have to get a haircut. Sometimes it's simple, sometimes it's more important. But especially since Uranus is in your first house, there's been a lot of changes over the past few years, and that is the reason why, Taurus, because Uranus makes changes. He is the planet of change. Then we move into September. Now, as we are going into September, we are going to have a very interesting phenomena. Well, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are all retrograde for the month. And then on the 27th of the month, here's Mercury going retrograde. So, that's like the whole world has to slow down a little bit and reassess everything. So if there's problems in communications or trying to get things done the way you would like them to get done, don't be surprised and don't be too worried about it. Just make the adjustments that have to be made. So, then that will make life a little bit easier for you. Now, as we go into the fourth quarter, we see that the card for the fourth quarter is the King of Swords. Now, the King of Swords, if you think about the whole year and even back into 2020, all these experiences that we've all had, the King of Swords has a lot of logic and ability to stand back and, face everything that has occurred and try to understand, to try to keep cool and understand that challenge is part of life, and you can control yourself. You can control the way you react to challenges. So this is, I think, a very good card to put here at the end of the year, because that'll help prepare you for the next year. So as we go into this time period of October, it's time to start moving ahead. So we're going to have Pluto, and Pluto's right there, Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury all going ahead. So this should really be helpful in communications, in business, in whatever changes you might want to try to make in your career, in groups that you are associated with. I mean, there's just a lot of much better energy as we go into October. Energy is moving forward. And then as you go into November, the number 1111, so the 11th of November, that's thought to be a really mystical, magical number. But on this 1111, there is a square from Mars to Saturn. Now, Saturn is up here again, up in your career area. So when Mars squares Saturn, there can be frustration, there can be delay. So it could be power struggles. So be a little bit careful not to be too pushy at that time period. You may have to, really try hard to cooperate, especially if it comes to your career or your social status. And finally, as we go into December, Neptune will go direct. Now, whenever Neptune goes direct, and he's in your 11th house of groups and friends, associates, that is like a clarifying time period. So we can understand things a little bit better. We can get things, our creative projects, our imagination is a little bit clearer. So that can be really, really helpful. And that happens in the very beginning of December. And then on the 19th of December, Venus will go retrograde, and that's happening up in the 9th house. So you may have to make some changes in what you believe in, what you value, and that's going to be particularly true because Venus is going to conjunct Pluto, and then that retrograde happens right away. So, think of what you really value. What is the most important thing? If it's money, you're going to have to make adjustments in money. If it's freedom, you're going to have to make some adjustments in your sense of freedom. If it's romance, you may have to be more understanding with your romantic partner. So, so this is an important retrograde because it happens right with Pluto. Now, on the 30th of the month, Jupiter will go into Pisces. This is the second time Jupiter has gone into Pisces. So he's going to be going into the 11th house, and that's the house of groups and associates. And that's on the 30th, just before New Year's. So be a little bit careful not to be too overindulgent. Don't drink too much, don't eat too much. You can party, you can have fun, but just be aware that Jupiter tends to be a little bit excessive, or he can be. It doesn't have to be, but so just take care and keep yourself safe and have a wonderful new year. Hi, I'm Reverend Tom Kearns, and this is my story. If you are a spiritual seeker, it may help you on your journey. I believe your spiritual development is as important as your religion. If you look at Christianity, it focuses on the life of Jesus. But Jesus was never a Christian. He was Jewish. If this thought intrigues you, you'll enjoy my new book, Light from Water, Freeing Jesus. It's available on Amazon.com and through fine bookstores. And it may help you on your spiritual journey. I'd like to thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Remember to subscribe because these videos are free and hit the little bell for notifications. And for a special offer, visit my website, internetpsychicreadings.com.